Good afternoon. Welcome to Parent University's Thursday afternoon workshops. My name is Rebecca Fast. I'm one of the parent coordinators in Parent University, and I really thank you for being with us here this afternoon. Today we have a special guest with us who's going to be focusing on our learners, our pre-K learners. So our learners who are our pre-K and even really up to elementary school. She's going to share so many really valuable strategies that we do around our home. And it's a lot of things sometimes we do within naturally, but giving us just a little intention behind some of the actions we have with our youngsters so that they can develop listening, reading, writing skills, and even mindfulness too. So we have with us Ms. Megan O'Brien, who's been with Long Beach Unified and been a speech pathologist for over 25 years. So we're very excited to have her with us here today. We also, I know you're going to like what you hear today. If you want to learn more from Ms. O'Brien, if you go to our Long Beach Unified Parent University website, she did a whole series of 4 workshops with us last year. So if you like what you hear today and you want to learn more, please visit our website at lbschools.net. Click on the Parent University button, and that'll bring you to a whole series of workshops just specifically for our pre-K learners. Today, we'd also like to invite you to scroll down below us. If you look right below your screen right now, under the YouTube link, you will see, and I'm going to take you to there now, you will see a button and it says, click here to ask a question. We would like to invite all of the people watching right now to just take a moment and click on that button now and let us know what school are your kids at, where are you from. We'd really like to capture the attendance. We'd really like to capture and see who is with us here today. So whether you're from CDC or Educare or one of our elementary schools, if you could please take a moment and let us know where you're from. We'd love to capture and know that you're here. This is also the link that you can use if you want to ask a question today. So throughout today's workshop, if you have a question for Ms. O'Brien, please feel free to jot it down there and we'll try to get our questions to you. So again, thank you for being here today. I'm going to stop screen sharing here and invite Ms. O'Brien to come in and screen share. And again, thank you for being with us today with Parent University. Megan, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Rebecca, for that wonderful opening. I'm just getting my screen together so that I can see what I'm talking about. So as Rebecca said, today I'll be talking about developing language literacy and mindfulness specific to our pre-K population. And when we talk about literacy, developing literacy really includes reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And in the preschool years, your child is really building their listening and speaking skills. Those listening and speaking skills will help them later as they're learning to read and write. What we know from research is that students who have a rich vocabulary really helps them to learn how to read when they're sounding out words, when their vocabulary is already rich. What else? The other things that we know is that children really learn best when they're having fun. So what I'm going to talk about today is ways of making reading, writing, listening, speaking fun. And then we're going to end with some mindfulness activities and some mindfulness information that you could use with your preschool age children. Okay, so how are we going to make reading fun? Reading is most enjoyable when you let your child choose their own book. So when they choose the book, they're more likely to be interested in what they're reading. And sometimes they might just want to talk about one page in the book. That's okay. You can just talk about that one page. When you're reading the story, you as the reader wants to use fun sounds and voices, silly noises when a car shows up, say beep, beep, choo, choo for the train, or use the Jeep voice for the Papa Bear and the little voice for the little baby bear. All of that makes reading fun and interactive. And then you can also let your child turn the pages. You want book reading to become a conversation. They take a turn, you take a turn. So pause, let them turn the pages and let them talk about what's interesting in the book. You can make comments on the pictures. You can ask a question or two as you read. And then even when you're reading online, you can pause the story to talk about what you can see on the screen. And we're going to talk about accessing books during this time next. There are a multitude of benefits to reading with your child. It develops a stronger vocabulary, and we know that that helps children to learn to read as they get older. It builds connections between the spoken word and the written word, especially if you point to the words as you read or point to the title of the book as you start the book. It's an enjoyable activity between the child and the caregiver, especially when you let them choose the book and be part of the conversation. It's not a time for them to just sit and listen to a story. It really is a back and forth. Also, it's a safe way to explore strong emotions, and we're going to talk about what to do with those big feelings later on in the presentation. But books can be a great avenue to talk about big, strong feelings, anger and grief and even joy that we sometimes feel at a loss to discuss with our kids. And then finally, it promotes bonding between you and your child when you're snuggled up reading a book together, talking about the events inside the book. So how are we going to access stories during COVID? And when I wrote this presentation, as I was writing this, things have been changing daily. It changes regularly. But currently, Long Beach Public Library has the to-go system, and I have the website up where you can access books. There are 8 libraries in the city, the last time I checked, that you make a reservation, you put down the books that you want, and then you just go pick it up as if it was a to-go item at a restaurant. You can call the phone number there that I have on the screen. That's another way for you to get information if you don't have easy access to online, and find out what libraries are open, how can I get a book? And that would be ways of getting a physical book. So you have to have a library card in order to use the Long Beach Public Library to-go system, and also to use the Libby app, which is connected. That's an app that you can get on your phone, on your Kindle, on a tablet. And it connects the public library to your card, and you can electronically borrow from the library. They have children's books and they also have adult books. So that will be another way. If you don't have a library card, reach out to the public library closest to you and get yourself and your child. Your children, I think at birth can have their own. I'm not sure if there's an age, maybe at age 2. Don't quote me on that, but very young children can have their own library card, and that builds their enjoyment, their pride. This is my book, I borrowed it. So you want to make sure that you do that with your child. And then online, YouTube has Read Aloud. You can just type in dinosaur preschool read aloud, and a variety of books will come up that are based on the interest that you put in. So if your child really likes dinosaurs or really likes construction vehicles, or maybe they're in one of our preschool programs and they're currently learning about buildings and construction, you can look up a book about construction. You want to make those interactive as well. When you're watching YouTube videos and online stories, you can still pause, talk about the pictures, ask your child a question, and then press play and move on with the story. Another option is storylineonline.net, and this is actors and actresses who are reading children's stories. It's actually kind of fun. There's all kinds of different actors that are reading. Another option is Bookmarks. It's a Netflix junior show, and they're just 5-minute episodes, so you can get that on Netflix, or you could also look it up on YouTube. And this is a specific, each episode's about 5 minutes, and it features a prominent Black celebrity or artist reading a children's book written by a Black author that highlights the Black experience. So that's another resource that you could access online. But then there's always options for you to make books at home. Use a digital camera and take pictures of a day in your child's life, or maybe it was their birthday and a special event that you want to focus on. You can take a picture of different things that you did that day, slide it into a 99-cent photo album, from the 99-cent store, or just hole punch on the top, and with a little ring, you can turn those pictures into a book. You can also just tell oral stories from your childhood, talk about things you did when you grew up. When my son was younger, don't tell him, he hates when I talk about him publicly. I won't use his name. He, sometimes had a hard day, and I would make up stories about the little boy bunny. So if he was having a difficult time sharing in preschool, I would talk about the little boy bunny one day hopped into the forest, and he saw Mr. Owl and Mr. Fox. Mr. Owl said, "Can I play with your blocks?" And the little boy bunny hit him. Now, that was something that happens in preschool. This is something that's pretty common. It gave us an avenue to discuss the events of the day, a highly emotional event, and problem solve with a little bit of distance. This was about a little boy bunny. It wasn't about my son. And so you can use those oral stories, either that you make them up, or, and let me tell you, I'm not a fantastic storyteller at all. None of these would be published if I wrote them down on paper, but your child doesn't mind. They want to hear you talk, and they want to hear you tell your stories, especially if you talk about them when they were little or you when you were little. So I want to pause there and see, does anybody have any questions, any comments that are in the chat?
Hi, Megan. We do have one question, and I think you're kind of talking about it now, and you're also going to be addressing it. But a parent did ask her, what are some activities that can keep a pre-K student interested? So I know you've addressed that, and you're going to be talking about it more. A quick tip, though, we can see your notes covering your slides. So I don't know if you want to quickly switch it out before we continue too. So
okay, I don't know why that happens sometimes.
I don't either. You know, we live in the Zoom world where we practice and then
yes,
everybody relates. That's the good thing. Okay.
I'm going to see if I can, let's see.
Yeah.
Tell me if you see my speaker's notes.
Nope.
No.
You're
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that was the only question, and I know you're going to be talking about it. So
yeah, so those suggestions that I made are part of what you can do to keep your child really interested, especially when you let them choose the story and the pace. Some kids want to read really quickly, and that's okay. Some kids want to read the same book over and over and over again, and that's okay too. They learn the vocabulary, they memorize the story after multiple book readings. So if your child is asking for that same story again and again, you want to read it to them. Even when you are sick and tired of that story and want to hide it, it's a really good idea for you to continue to read it anyway. And then after multiple readings, they might read the book back to you because they've memorized it. That's a really useful tool that they can use. So let's talk a little bit about not just reading, but building language in general. So I want you to think about the items in your home and how you can use them. Every week I get these flyers in the mail that are from supermarkets or furniture stores. They're from the automobile dealers, and you can turn that into a language building activity. It's just something fun that you and your child are going to do together. You can cut out the pictures and sort them into categories. Understanding categories is something that is how we organize information in our brain, and they only do that when we talk about a category. So let's put the food here, or you can even break it down to let's put fruits here and vegetables there. So those flyers are things that come in the mail all the time. You can play games with your child in your home. I spy with my little eye something blue. That's teaching them about describing words, and then they ask a question back. Is it round? Does it roll? Is it on the couch? And go back and forth until the item is guessed, and then you take turns and they get to take a turn. That builds vocabulary, having to think about how to describe words, how to describe objects. Also, I used to play a game with my son called I'm Thinking of an Animal. And so we would say, I'm thinking of an animal with fur. And then they'd have to ask a question, is it a herbivore, a carnivore, or an omnivore? Now, those are words you have to teach your child. These are, a carnivore is a meat eater. A herbivore only eats vegetables. And so this is building not only their vocabulary, but also their knowledge of science and the animal kingdom. So asking each other questions back and forth. Does it live on a farm? What color is it? Does it have fur, feathers, or skin? And then narrowing it down until your child can guess what animal, and then you take a turn. Singing songs that include rhyming, and rhyming is a really important pre-reading skill if they can hear the sounds that are the same. So children have to be exposed to rhyme. Lots of children's songs have rhyme in it, pointing out, hey, that rhymes. Down and, no, that's not rhyme. Out and spout. So I want to caution you when you're using songs, the prepackaged recorded songs that are on the internet or that are even played on children's stations on radios are too fast for our kids to keep up with. So you want to sing slowly, and then it becomes an interactive experience. And remember, children learn when they're having fun. So instead of the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout, you want to slow it down. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Our children in the preschool age can't keep up with that fast pace. So when we slow it down, they can sing along with us. And then I pause at that high point and see if they'll take a turn and say the word down or move their arms to indicate down. Now that song's become an interaction. And when we're interacting, it's more fun than just being a passive observer. Another thing that you can do is, this is a great one, when you're exhausted, but you have a preschool age child with lots of energy, you can sit on the couch so that you as the adults can get some rest time and say, find something in the house that's red. Find something that's under the table. Find something that's in the bathroom. So these are teaching words like categories, colors, shape, size, depending on what you tell them to go find. Sending them on a scavenger hunt around the house lets them burn some energy while you can relax or possibly cook dinner while they're being occupied. And then when you use words like in or under or on, that's then teaching them those location words or prepositions, words that are really important when they're in school in order to follow directions. Another thing you can do is just sort items in your home. You can get some shoe boxes, empty shoe boxes, and put all the toy cars in here, all the blocks go in there. Sorting is another way that we can teach categories. Or while you're doing the laundry and folding the clothes, let's put the socks over here and the t-shirts over there. Learning to sort and describe the differences and the similarities in items. And then another great thing to do is to play board games. And so this is something that needs to be taught to children. When I'm working with kids, I can tell who plays board games and who doesn't. Board games like Candylands or Chutes and Ladders, card games like Go Fish or War or Memory. You can do that with a deck of cards that you get at the dollar store, or possibly you already have one around the house. It's really a wonderful way to teach colors, size, shape, turn taking, how to win gracefully and how to lose gracefully. It is board games are social as well as a language building activity. Teaching memory, I wouldn't use the whole deck of cards at one time. I'd maybe put 6 or 8 cards down, 2 queens, 2 kings, 2 number 2s, 2 number 4s. And then when you turn them over, are the cards the same or different? If they're different, you turn them back. And then next turn, when you get a match that's the same, then you can talk about, oh, I got the number 2. So it's letter identification or number identification, understanding what's same and what's different. And then finally using this I took from my mother. She used to give me her junk mail and I would play secretary or be the postman and redeliver the junk mail to people in the home. You can take empty cereal boxes, empty clean containers of food, and they can play grocery store or kitchen. Using that imaginary play is really important for perspective taking, for language building, for social emotional, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and taking turns that way is both enjoyable for them, and it's also a way that they can build their language skills. Before I move on to writing, are there any questions, Rebecca?
There's a couple. One of them is just, do you have any titles of good books for kindergartners? We had a few questions about book titles. Are there any specific series of books or certain books you would recommend for kindergarten?
So any of the, if you give a blank, like if you give a mouse a muffin, if you give a pig a pancake, that's a series, the Jan Brett books. But honestly, the most important is finding a book that your child enjoys. So letting them choose. The public library also has a book list of suggested books by grade all the way up, I believe, through high school. It starts in kindergarten, and you can just ask for that. They'll give you suggestions there. But I would really follow your child's lead on what are they interested in. And it could be a book that maybe is a higher level book, but they're really interested in the topic. Or it could be a book with no words, but they love the pictures and it brings their attention and conversation out. So I hope that answers your question. Are there more questions?
No, that's all for now. Those are great tips, Megan. Thank you. I'm just learning so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So when we talk about writing skills or pre-writing skills, I really want families to realize that there's a lot of overlap between the stages. There's naturally a very broad range of what's expected in this age. So what's considered typical of development is really broad and based on student interest. So when you're looking at the development of pre-writing from 15 months to 2.5 years, it's just random scribbles. Kids are not writing anything recognizable yet. And then between 2 and 3, the scribbling starts to look more like writing, like they're actually writing something even though there are no letters there. And then between 2.5 and 3.5, the child will start writing lines and some recognizable patterns. They might imitate writing that you do. If you make a letter T, they might make a letter T. If you make a circle, they might make a circle. And then the next stage occurs between ages 3 to 5. And that's when they can draw pictures of objects or people. They can maybe write their own name and some random letters. Also between 3 and 5. So you'll see there's lots of overlap here for what's considered appropriate. They begin to use letters to match to sounds. So they might try to sound out the word bed and write the word B for the word bed. And then from 5 on is when they learn to write paragraphs and sentences and use punctuation and so forth. So I just want to give you that broad idea, and I'll tell you another personal story about my son. He was 5 turning 6. This was before we had our TK program. So we decided to keep him home for kindergarten and not start kindergarten until he was already 5. And then in that October, he turned 6. He did not pick up a crayon or a pencil or show any interest whatsoever in writing until the summer before he started kindergarten. So he was almost 6. And we did things where he was recognizing letters, he could recognize his name, but he didn't have any interest in writing. And the thing that got him interested was the kindergarten festival. So I know this year, because of COVID, the K-Fest was online and I watched. It was fantastic. They gave so many great suggestions. So if you haven't had an opportunity and you've got a child who's either in kindergarten, in TK, or on their way into TK or kindergarten, it's really worth watching. They gave you math and reading and literacy activities to do. But at that time, he got a little backpack and then he was ready. But it wasn't until he was ready. So I really wanted to give you some suggestions to make fine motor and pre-writing and writing enjoyable. If we force our kids to copy their name or force our kids to write, they're just going to push back. Remember to keep this fun. So some ideas to keep, there's both the writing part, but also the strengthening of the fine motor skills. Writing is a fine motor skill, meaning the small little muscles in your hand. So take shaving cream when they're in the bathtub and have them write on the wall, or shaving cream in a cookie sheet so it keeps it contained and doesn't make it a mess on your house. And they can draw with their finger. They can start writing letters, don't even realize that they're writing because it's fun. It's also a really great calming sensory activity. Another thing you can do is to make Play-Doh. I have a recipe that I'll include later on in the presentation, but you can Google it. They're all over the internet for easy activities to make Play-Doh. Playing with Play-Doh builds those fine motor skills. Painting with water. Take an old paintbrush and a little can of water out on the sidewalk on a sunny day and draw and write whatever they want and watch it magically disappear. That's another way to practice those pre-writing skills. Give them a pair of child-safe scissors and have them snip paper or snip Play-Doh. If they're not ready for the snipping yet with scissors, they can rip paper. If you find that your kids are trying to grab it and pull it apart, you can start by giving little tiny tears on the top and then giving them the paper to rip. That's the skill that's going to get them ready when it's time for them to hold a pencil. But you have to get them ready for that. Stringing Cheerios or beads. Cheerios are fun because then you can later eat them onto a string to make a necklace. Playing with Legos and small blocks build those fine motor skills as well. So it might look like playing, but it actually has a lot of benefit to it. What we know about our kids is playtime is learning time. For preschool age kids especially, playing is the business of children. It is how they learn. If you have a game that came with some plastic tweezers, or you even have old tweezers, they can practice picking up items around the house, put cotton balls or little balls of paper. You can write their name on an index card or on a piece of paper, just their first name out in pen, and you can cut it and then mix the letters up and give it to them and have it put the name in order. So it's a puzzle, it's fun, it's not making them write, but they're still learning the letters of their name and how to spell their name. You can also point out environmental print in the neighborhood. So, wow, that's McDonald's. And when they say that says Cheerios, or STOP, that says stop, you want to celebrate that. You're reading, wow, look what you did. Cheerios, that starts with the same letter as your name. Cheerios starts with the ch sound, and your name is Chelsea. Wow, that's the same as your name. So just pointing those items out can bring awareness. And that's really what we want to do in these preschool years, bring awareness and interest in fun and interesting, playful ways. So before I move away from writing and on to the next, do we have any questions?
So enthralled with what you were saying, I've lost track. No questions so far. We're good.
Thanks, Rebecca. So now we're going to talk about the mindfulness portion. And I put this in because especially today, right now, with what we're all going through as a country, as a city, as the world, we could all benefit from some mindfulness. So I have a quote from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is an internationally known scientist, writer, and meditation teacher. And he describes and defines mindfulness meditation as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Whew, that's a lot, right? Easy? Maybe not. It's simple, but not necessarily easy to do, right? Paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. So we're going to look at a little bit how we can incorporate that with ourselves. It starts within us, and then modeling that and using those strategies with our children. So conscious discipline is a social emotional curriculum that Head Start uses, and they talk about the skill of composure, which is self-regulation. Children really, especially young children, they regulate themselves by being with regulated adults. And by regulated, I mean in a calm and ready state. A calm, not hyper and anxious, not too low, not too high, but just a nice regulated state. And it's the skill that adults need before they discipline children. So one strategy that conscious discipline talks about is in the moment of a big feeling, either yourself or your child, you can say silently to yourself, I'm safe, keep breathing, I can handle this. How we talk to ourselves is really important. And when we're saying, I can't do this, I can't believe he's having a tantrum, this is so embarrassing, we get all amped up, and our kids get amped up with us, whether we say those words out loud or not. So really the most important thing you can do in the middle of a tantrum or a big feeling is for you to stay calm, keep breathing, and tell yourself that you can handle this. You want to make sure in the moment of a tantrum that your child is in a physically safe environment. If they're falling out on the street, you're going to bring them over to the sidewalk. If they're in a parking lot, you want to put them inside the car so they're safe. Always first making sure they're safe. And then you want to stay present. Stay physically present and mentally present with where your child is. And slow down your own breathing. We're going to look at a breathing technique that we can use in just a second. You want to stay physically close to your child, as your body is staying calm and your physical presence, it's very calming for your preschool age child, and it will help them to calm down. And then stop talking. When a child is in an emotional state and having a tantrum or a big feeling or hysterical crying, if we yell at them to stop, they either amp up and cry more, or they completely shut down and go into that freeze mode. And we want to avoid that. We want to teach them that they're safe, this will pass, and I'm here with you. But when they're so excited like that, our words can actually, even calm words, can actually overstimulate them even more. So just staying silent and then keep repeating that. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And then as you stay regulated and you stay close and keep your child safe physically and emotionally, they will eventually calm down. Our goal is to help reduce those tantrums. So we're going to look at some ways that we can do that. So there is a multitude of ways that we can calm ourselves down. And one of the quickest, easiest, we always have it with us, is a deep breath. So this is just an example from YouTube. If you watch the YouTube, it tells you when to breathe out. This is less than 2 minutes. Just following. There's no sound with this right now as I'm presenting, but you take a big inhale as the shape builds, and then you exhale as the shape goes away. And then you inhale and exhale. And I'll tell you, if we were to stop and do this for 2 whole minutes together, or even less, because I've done it throughout, it really calms your body. The research shows us that deep belly breathing physically calms your nervous system. And so it's not, when we do that, it actually gets us hyper excited, but deep breath in, so your belly comes out and expands, and then slow breath out. In, and your belly expands, and then slow breath out. So, sorry. So let's talk about teaching your child this skill. I said, kids are going to have tantrums. Teenagers still have tantrums. Don't tell my son I said that, but we don't call them tantrums as much as we do when they're real little. So what we want to teach our children and ourselves, frankly, is how to calm down before we get into that hyper aroused state. And so we want to create a calm down space within your home. At Head Start, we have them in our classrooms. It's a space the children are taught to go to when they're all, hyper up, and they can just calm down. It's not a place to go when they've been bad. It's not a timeout place, but you're going to teach them when you start to see them get a little upset, a little overexcited. Let's go to the calm down space, and that's a space where you have maybe some stuffed animals or a pillow, blanket. Maybe you create a mindful box with your child where there are little bubbles. The idea of you have to breathe in, and then you're teaching them how to blow out slowly. When you blow the bubble is a way that they're automatically doing that deep breathing and relaxing. You can put sunglasses in there so that they can get a new perspective on life. I've heard of a child who said, I don't want to blow my lid, so I'm going to put my hat on. They have a hat in their mindful box. Little fidget toys that you sometimes get at community fairs and events. I know we're not having them right now, but maybe previously and hopefully in our very near future. Things like stress balls or little wind-up toys or little toys that you just literally fidget with and play with is a way to calm their bodies down. Also, like an opportunity maybe that is separate from the calm down spaces, maybe it's time we take a nice warm bath. Just a change of scenery and a warm bath can help them calm down before they get into that hyper aroused state. So this is really going to take some modeling from you, some noticing when your child's starting to get upset and teaching them how to go to this space. Reading books or having books available that talk about feelings in that space is also another great thing to have. And then again, your deep breathing calms your nervous system and calms your child's nervous system. So Teaching children about mindfulness means you have to talk about feelings. You have to teach them that I see your shoulders are going up. Let's take some deep breaths. And in conscious discipline, they call it star breath. Smile, take a breath, and relax. So you can do star breathing with your child. You can teach them about progressive muscle relaxation. Make a fist tight, 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 and relax. And do that with me right now. Make your face tight, 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 and relax. And you can feel the tension leave your body as you do that. Teaching your child how to do those things when they're calm, so that when they start to get upset, you can teach them and encourage them to use those strategies. And then eventually they use those strategies on their own. It's really magic when you see a child go to their calm down space before they have a tantrum and calming themselves down. There are apps out there like Insight Timer, the Calm app, or Headspace that have free, the apps are free, and then they have free meditations where they're just a few minutes, and you can listen to them with your child before bedtime, walking through the forest, calming your body. They have ways that teach about relaxing muscles and doing some of that progressive muscle relaxation in a child-friendly way. You can teach your child to belly breathe or yourself to belly breathe by laying on the floor or on a bed and putting a stuffed animal on your belly. When you breathe in, your belly should come out and you should see the animal move. And then when you exhale, the belly should go down and the animal should go down. So really doing this with your child will calm them, will set the example for them, and then eventually they'll be doing it on their own. So before I move on, I just want to put this up. So if anybody wants to take a screenshot of it, this is the Play-Doh recipe that I came up with. You can make Play-Doh even more interesting by adding an essential oil, so a smell that smells really calming and relaxing. At Halloween time, I put pumpkin spice in and I make it orange. At winter time, I put mint in it and I make it pink so it smells like peppermint. Or you can just keep it plain with however the recipe is, and use it as a calm down activity as well as a fine motor activity. So I'll keep that up for just a quick second if anybody wants to screenshot it. Again, you can just search the internet. There are a ton of really easy Play-Doh recipes. Any questions, Rebecca?
Okay, we do have a few that have come through. So the first question is about online learning. Do you have any tips for parents who have children at home who just aren't wanting to do the online classes? This parent is saying that my son does not want to pay attention to the teacher and it makes her sad and frustrated.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you guys are having a frustrating time. This is really a shift in how we are how we're operating for school right now. So without knowing the specific situation, have you talked to his teacher and said, he's having a hard time? Do you have suggestions? Because maybe there's something the teacher can do to make it a little bit more engaging for him. If you have the time before he goes online, do some deep, heavy work like running in the backyard or going for a walk and stomping your feet to get your body, his body or her body ready for learning. Little ones have so much energy. Sitting and paying attention to a little TV screen or computer screen can be quite difficult. Letting them stand while they learn instead of always having to sit, or even putting a blanket on them so they have something soft or something that they can hold while they learn, using those fidget toys can sometimes help the body get ready to learn. And then I always use the phrase, this is just a behavior phrase, first this, then that. First school, then a walk. First school, then lunch. First school, then whatever activity he really likes and enjoys. One aside that I want to add is you want to make sure that you're not giving your child the tablet or a game to play and then quickly taking it away because, it's time for school. Kids can't do that shift, and you're just setting them up for failure. So a reminder, in 20 minutes, school is going to start. In 10 minutes, school is going to start. Do you want a quick snack before school starts? I know this is a lot for parents to do right now, but some of that setting up in advance, letting them know that this is coming, and then letting them know first school, then some kind of fun activity that you can do. and then possibly even fidget toys. But really, I'd reach out to the teacher because she or he knows what's happening in the classroom best. But thank you. That's a great question. I know a lot of us are struggling with that right now.
Absolutely, a really timely question. We have another parent who's asking a question about language. So kind of going back to what you were talking about at the beginning of your seminar or your workshop. She says, my son has created a random word that means I love you. Should I correct him or should I let him keep his word? For example, he says Vandu instead of I love you. At what point is it cute, or maybe at what point do we correct it as parents? Or
so when it comes to correction, now not knowing the child's age, if that's the only thing he's doing, it's okay. If there's lots of other errors, then I would look at modeling. So instead of correcting, model the correct. So when he says Vandu, you say, I love you. You just say it back so they hear it the right way. You can do that with grammar. You can do that with sounds that kids are not saying correctly. Just saying it back without any expectation that they'll repeat you gives them that correct model. So if it's just that one phrase, it might just be a little cute thing that he or she, I think you said son, that he's doing. But if there are multiple concerns, that would be something to discuss with his teacher or possibly a speech therapist if you really can't understand the majority of what your child is saying and they're 4. That's kind of a good, at 3, we understand about half. At 4, we should understand the majority of what our own children, familiar people, so parents, siblings should understand by 4 years old, the majority.
Perfect. And then there's just one more question here that's kind of overarching. If a parent wanted more resources or wanted to learn more about some of the things that you've been talking about today, do you have any good tips or books or websites that they could refer to?
Sure. So go back to my YouTubes that are on the Parent University. There's one that my colleague did for me called with discussing the stages of language development from birth to age 5. So what to expect at each stage with tips on each stage, what you could do. And then I talk about book reading in one YouTube, how to use toys specifically. And I'm missing one. There was a third one I did as well, I believe. But another resource would be Hanen, HANEN.org. That's an organization, a nonprofit out of Canada, and they have a ton of resources for language and literacy development for the preschool population, birth to age 5. And you just go on the top of their website, it will say parents, and they have all kinds of suggestions, ways to read books, how to correct a child when they're making mistakes in that way that I just talked about. PBS.org has wonderful resources. Nick Jr. also has wonderful resources. There's a book called Baby Talk. I don't know off the top of my head who the author is. If you're looking specific for behavior or some of the mindfulness things that I talked about, you can look up Conscious Discipline. That's another organization, and they put on presentations. They have some free resources for parents and teachers out there. Those are the things that are coming at the top of my mind right now.
Well, those are good. That's a lot. And again, I can't recommend enough if you go to our Parent University website and see the 4 workshops that we did last year. So much great information, so much really valuable information for our parents. So I can second that recommendation. Those are all the questions we have now. So I think we're good. We're good on that end.
Okay, I just want to encourage everybody to 2 things. To check in if you especially have a child that's at Head Start, let us know on the form that's there. And also, I just want to encourage you to have fun. Take a deep breath. We get really worried about my child's not doing what the neighborhood child is doing, or is everything okay? And there are resources out there. Every elementary school has a speech pathologist. If you've got concerns, you can contact the speech pathologist at your local elementary school, whether your child goes to school or not, and you can just request a consult. You can say, hey, my child's not doing X, Y, and Z. Can you give me some resources, or can it be more specific to your child? They don't have to be enrolled in school. It's from age 3 on that the district provides this service for anybody who has a need in the area of speech and language. And I want to thank you for coming and taking the time to listen about ways that you can support your child at home. And as the sun is setting, although it's not quite setting yet, but I just thought this picture was a nice reminder for all of us to just take a deep breath and know that we're all doing our best. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you, parents, for tuning in. If you have any questions about today's workshop or future workshops, please feel free to email us at parentuniversity.net. We'd be happy to respond to your questions, or if you still have questions, we can certainly pass them on to Ms. O'Brien too. So thank you for being with us here today. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everybody in Multimedia Services, for helping support this platform that we can bring this information to parents, and we'll see you all next Thursday.